I still got plans that I never spoke. A lot of rhymes that I never wrote. A lot of dreams that I never lived. But if I think about it, then I mean I really did. Just not yet. I used to wish that I was here now. Smooth sailing on my own boat. I'm about to jump up on another plane. Right before I take another tote. It's all love. If you here, you done been through it. It's your business if you into it. If it ain't mine, I ain't into it. So I don't care what you meddling. You can say what you peddling, cause niggas ain't easily influenced. I'm about to take another long drive.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We're streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live on Facebook Live. Just go to facebook.com/New Haven Independent, or just go to your Facebook page, look us up, and check See First. And that way you get to see all the great shows that we have here on WNHHLP right there on your Facebook feed. So, anyway, today you'll notice that I'm alone, hanging out in the studio with our producer, Harry Draws. And I just wanted to kick off the show by giving everybody a little update on what's been going on with marijuana legalization. Unless you've been living under a rock, you would know that the Connecticut state legislature decided on Tuesday to make the official announcement that they would not be voting on cannabis legalization this year during the legislative session. And they quickly put together a budget, which really was just a reshuffling of money, and got the session over with, almost like they just wanted to go on vacation and get started on their campaigns. And that's really the issue that I have with the legislators this year, is they took the easy way out. They basically were very, very selfish, and I'm sorry for all those ones who have supported cannabis legalization. This really doesn't include you. We still love you guys. We definitely will be supporting you in your campaigns. However, there were a few Democratic holdouts who would not vote either way. We refused to put their name on the cannabis bill, just like there was with the tolls, for one reason and one reason only, because they were up for re-election. They were afraid that it might hurt their campaigns. Regarding wherever they lived, they were afraid a no vote might hurt their campaigns, and they were afraid a yes vote, depending on where they lived. So basically, for this session, as far as I'm concerned, the legislators were very selfish, and they took the easy way out, and they put politics over people. Right now, we put a lot of effort into this cannabis legalization effort this year. I can say we made more progress than ever before, actually getting a bill passed through committee. Thank you to those legislators who did vote yes on that and really push that through. We'll have your back this campaign season. And, other than that, they were more concerned about their campaigns and being reelected than actually enacting new laws. Because not only did they not vote on the tolls, they really put the casino on the back burner. They put legalization. Anything that was going to bring in revenue, they kind of just pushed off to the side because it was too big of an issue, too controversial for them to handle this session, because they all were worried about getting reelected. And, there's the whole governor's race coming up and all that. And by the way, speaking of the governor's race, the Republicans held their convention this weekend, and they decided that Mayor Mark Boughton would be their representative candidate this year for the primary. So there still will be a primary in August, but the Republican Party has chosen Mark Boughton as their candidate for governor. Now, Mark Boughton has come out publicly. I've heard him on the air. I've heard him say that he is not pro-legalization. He does not think it's right for Connecticut, and he does not think it's the right time, and he thinks there's other issues pending. I don't know what those other issues are, but I'm sure marijuana legalization will become a big issue on this gubernatorial campaign. And if Mark Boughton was smart, he might soften his stance on it if he wants to get reelected. Because if he continues that, then he will not have the support of the cannabis community and will have to support another candidate. The Democrats have their convention this weekend. I'd love to see who they have decided to put up. Right now, the money is on Ned Lamont, and that's somebody that we'll have to discuss. Right now, we have a caller. I want to change the tone a little bit from the legislator to cryptocurrency. Who do we have on the phone here?
This is Ian.
Ian, how are you? This is Joe speaking. I'm running the show solo this week right now until Lou gets here. I believe he got caught in some traffic or something on the way over here, and Kebra had an emergency. So I'm kind of hanging out here in the studio with the producer, and we were just chatting about marijuana legalization and how it did not go through this year.
I know. We were there at the rally that Sunday, and I remember I filled out a few forms. I was calling and emailing my representatives. I was getting some lashback, and it was kind of disappointing to say that they just said no outright. They weren't going to deal with it this session. So
yeah,
hopefully next year.
They chickened out. Well, yeah, and it's really going to depend on these elections this year. You know, if we end up with a Republican governor, we might as well pack it in and move to Massachusetts, because it'll be at least another 2 years.
They're going to start pushing those tolls.
Yeah, at least the Republicans won't put in the tolls, but who knows what else they'll do. But anyway, I wanted to change the subject a little because, you know, that's a little bit depressing. I'll be honest with you. I feel very defeated. You know, it's like the agony of defeat. You put in all that effort and you try to really, really do something. You get close to that finish line, and then through no fault of your own, you know, somebody pulls the rug out from under you. Now, it could have been doomed from the start, for all we know. The governor could have had a kibosh on it from the start. Politics works that way, but at least we know we did our best, you know, and that's all I can say on that subject. But, Ian, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. Well, now, here's a question I want to ask you. How do you pronounce your last name?
Tyska.
Okay. So, Ian Tyska.
So it's
Tyszka. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay. Ian, you are a cryptocurrency expert. You run a Facebook group. You are a cryptocurrency investor. You've been in on this crypto thing for a while, probably before a lot of people were. And, you know, some people don't understand it. And maybe if you could give us like a 2-minute intro to crypto, because I know the whole thing is very complicated, blockchain and all that. But if you can give us a 2-minute intro to crypto, what it is and what it does, and then we'll talk about a little bit how it can maybe benefit the cannabis industry.
Yes, and that's kind of I'm very excited. I have a talk this weekend about it as well. So I'm very excited. But yeah, I can definitely do an intro to cryptocurrency and kind of explain what cryptocurrency is about. So to understand, we live in a digital age.
Right.
Everyone's addicted to their cell phones. Everyone using computers, Facebook, Google, all these websites are very prevalent. We're almost at an age where now our current money system is not equipped to handle the economic transactions that are happening globally. I mean, people don't understand, but when we're talking about the third world, even places in like Venezuela, where their dollar is hyperinflating because it's backed by nothing, cryptocurrencies have come onto the scene to kind of help put everyone again on the same playing field. And the way that I explain it for people to understand is it's just a gigantic ledger. Like a bank has a ledger. It's a gigantic ledger that everybody syncs to, and that's how everyone knows who has what. So when you send, let's say, a Bitcoin, one type of cryptocurrency, what the network does is just record that this address sent this Bitcoin, just like we would say a credit to $1. The Bitcoin was transferred to this address. The network syncs, everyone agrees, and then you no longer have this Bitcoin. This new wallet does.
Right. And you know, a Bitcoin wallet is actually just like a virtual wallet, almost like a little cloud.
It's like a software, like almost like I liken it to like a video game. You know how in a video game they give you credits and such in the actual video game? It's similar to that, where you can actually take and use this not only as an investment like people are currently, that's what the whole craze is right now, but people can actually use it to pay for services and products. And that's what Bitcoin was actually started as. That's what people were actually using it for, was to transact with each other in an anonymous fashion across the internet.
Right. A digital type of currency to kind of bring us into this digital age. It only makes sense. So what you basically do is you convert your fiat currency
Yes.
into a digital currency, whether it be a Bitcoin, and I understand there are other ones out there that you can
There are about
convert to as
1,600.
well. Yeah, there's like about 1,500 of them, right?
Yeah.
And then you convert to this, let's say Bitcoin, because that's the one everyone knows. So you take $1,000 and you convert it to a Bitcoin and you keep it in your wallet, or you use an exchange, right?
Yes.
You can keep it in an exchange wallet. And
hmm
and now tell
Now,
us a little
there
bit
are
about
some
exchanges. That's
conflicting,
like the stock exchange, right?
somewhat similar. It all operates on the same fundamentals of whether it's an exchange or a wallet. Every wallet has associated keys with it. So the keys operate in how you actually send or receive the cryptocurrencies.
And for those
Now,
people who don't know, the key is just a string of numbers and letters, a
yes,
digital code.
exactly. And you can even get QR codes and such that you'll just scan and it'll do it, and you can send right there to the wallet. Um, but with the exchanges, and this is one thing I will urge, especially if you're looking to hold it in the long term or actually use it, exchanges, they don't give you access to your send keys, which is how you actually own your Bitcoin. So you don't technically own your Bitcoin until you have that private key that says, okay, you can send this to anywhere. That means it's yours.
Right.
So I do suggest people, especially when we start talking about the infrastructure, exchanges don't update as quickly. So their wallets might not have the latest updates, so that they can't process transactions the same way. And what's happening in the space is a lot of development, a lot of things. It's still in its infancy. Don't get me wrong. It's like 1995 with the internet, but it's coming, and all these new improvements are starting to come out. And once you start using the actual technology, not just exchanges, you'll understand why it's so important and what makes it so different.
Right. And I think you can see that people, when you see people like Facebook and Amazon and eBay and even the government, even the big banks, starting to become interested in this technology and making claims that they're going to start their own cryptocurrency. And I know even like you mentioned Venezuela, didn't they actually come up with a cryptocurrency out there in
Yes, it did,
Venezuela?
and it was actually made illegal.
It was made illegal. Now, that's the next thing I want to
Yeah.
get to as far as crypto goes. Now, we see these big companies wanting to get involved in it and the big banks. How long before the government, and I've even seen a little bit of talk of government regulation. I've seen some crypto investment platforms get shut down because of government regulation. How long before the government comes in and gets their hands on it?
Uh, that is somewhat of a loaded question. I
I
would
know.
say the government can utilize the actual blockchain technology to help satisfy some of the functions that we use today. So now imagine, instead of having to go and stand in line at the DMV, we can have a registrar system where we record all of the cars that are out on the roads. And when you transfer, all you do is just sync with the network saying this car was transferred to this person. And now instead of waiting in line or having to sit and go through the online portal, now your thing can transfer in 15 minutes and everyone knows that, yes, this is now this person's car.
Right.
The government will start to utilize these. Even, Oracle is starting to offer blockchain services as well. And it's the ability of that immutable database that everyone thinks to. It has to be accurate all the time. If anyone tries to edit anything, that's what miners and things you'll hear in the space, miners, what they're doing is making sure no one can actually adjust that ledger to say, okay, you can spend this thing twice, or that you no longer have access to this. That's kind of what the mining is actually doing, is that validation.
Right.
But as far as regulation in and of itself, I think will be a great start. I just hope it's not going to throttle the market at all. And that's kind of what's happening. Even if a U.S. company wants to launch an ICO, they have to go through so many standards and regulations to make sure that they can and prove that they're not a security token and don't fall under the SEC regulations.
Right.
And now you're actually just offering shares or stock, but in a digital form. That's kind of where it is right now, and you're seeing companies leave the United States and go to other regions just so that they can successfully launch their ICO without running into regulation issues.
Yeah, I think people don't realize they think of it as Bitcoin as just a means of exchange, but it's also exchanging data So the blockchain technology has so many more applications that people don't even realize. Where, like you said, you can exchange data, you can, medical records, you can exchange insurance records. There's a lot of different things you can do through blockchain technology that doesn't always involve money. And I
Exactly.
think that's really the overall big picture of the technology itself. And I did see an article today where there is going to be something where crypto can be purchased on the stock exchange. What is that all about? What is this new platform that people are saying is going to take Bitcoin to another level because it's going to allow it to be on the stock exchange or something like that?
Um, if I remember correctly, I did see that it was announced that they are considering NASDAQ, the NASDAQ exchange, is considering allowing the purchase of Bitcoin. But I know that there are also ETFs that are coming out. The Bitcoin has a futures market right now, so you can actually kind of bet on what's going to happen with the price of Bitcoin.
Ugh,
And I know that there's a lot of hedge funds that are starting to incorporate cryptocurrencies into their actual portfolios.
okay.
So with the Nasdaq, I believe what that's going to allow is, so if you have a regular stock account, let's say E-Trade, you can now buy Bitcoin. But I
Oh,
don't want to
trading
say it
using
will be
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin per se. You might be buying just a registration.
Right. Okay. All right. So that takes me to the next subject, crypto and cannabis. We all know that cannabis has had a lot of issues with the banking industry. They're still very, very reluctant to take the cannabis money because it's still federally illegal and banks are
Yes.
regulated by the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people in the cannabis industry have to hide their companies and put them under different names and play all kinds of games with banking. How can cryptocurrency help advance the cannabis industry and maybe become a sort of means of exchange? And I know there are already coins out there that specifically claim to be cannabis centric. And how do they work? And how does that all tie in?
So there are, at the end of the day, it's not only the banking that I'm actually seeing issues with, it's actually the payment processing. So
Yes.
not only the banks won't take the money and these now business owners have to keep large sums of cash, but they can't even process credit cards. Some are reluctant, are finding a difficult time even processing debit cards.
Yep.
I know for a dispensary that I have worked with, they're running into they have to you can't even you have to use an ATM card. You can't even use a credit card or anything.
Yes.
So
Very
it's something
true.
that's
Very
coming.
true.
And what I see with the crypto space is that it can act as a two-sided kind of function. So not only can dispensaries now start keeping these large stockpiles of cash in, say, a digital asset, where now as long as they keep this digital asset, they get a dedicated wallet and they get some security. Now they can actually reserve this cash in another currency, and then when necessary, use cash or even start considering even paying for other services, let's say lights, let's say a grow tent or acting or for some nutrients, starting to actually talk with their clients and saying, hey, we're starting to accept Bitcoin. Can I pay you in Bitcoin? And starting to use this cryptocurrency as a medium of exchange to fund the revolution. And it's
Right.
really, it's a keynote kind of thing that I like talking about because the current system that we're using isn't working. And the problem is with the Supreme Court decision, with the politics and everything, your money is now your speech, and how you spend your money shows people what your
It's
inherent
like your
interests
vote.
are.
Your
Exactly.
money is your vote
So
almost. You vote
if
daily.
you start, huh?
You vote daily when you spend your money.
Exactly. Exactly. You support Coca-Cola or eco-friendly kind of bottling system. Do you support Nabisco, who's trying to privatize water? And I think it's
Right.
Nestle. Nestle is trying to privatize
Yeah.
all water. Or do you support something that's more eco-friendly?
And you not only
What
by
you do
buying their
with those
products do you
dollars?
support their whatever their company's about. You support whatever political candidates they tend to donate to. I mean, it really trickles
Exactly.
down. Look into it. Anyway.
We could talk on this all day. But now we can actually use this new currency to speak for us. And it's not a new idea. If people are scratching their head, well, why would a business owner accept cryptocurrency? Bitcoin was actually used to purchase cannabis on the internet. And I know, for better or
Yeah,
for worse,
Silk
maybe it
Road,
wasn't a
right?
great solution. But Silk Road existed, and people were using and buying, and the price stayed relatively stable through that period because people were not using it to invest in with the assumption that they're going to get more dollars back. They were actually using this currency as a currency,
Yeah,
which gave it that inherent value.
I think that investment thing, it kind of put a bad taste in people's mouth because anybody who was involved in crypto knows that sometime right around the end of last year, the beginning of this year, the market really surged and then it really crashed. And that's because people caught on to the fact that they could play games like short selling just like the stock market. Am I correct? That did happen, right? And how do we avoid that from
Yes.
happening again?
Well, it wasn't. I won't say it was even that. I would say that there was a lot of excitement and a lot of false hopes. People were saying, this thing's going to be $100,000 in a year, so I should buy it now at 20,000. The problem is that there's only so much supply. So as more demand rises, because of the limited supply designed in the Bitcoin ecosystem, as that demand rises, it only astronomically rose the price. But people were getting into it for the wrong reasons. They weren't getting into it because they believed that Bitcoin could change the world.
No, they want
They
to
got
make money.
into it as an investment. As
Yeah.
I'm going to put in $1,000 now, and in a week I know I'm going to pull out 10. And unfortunately, no market works like that.
Right.
No economic system can sustain like that. And because of that sheer excitement, the end of the year, it's always a big hype right at the end of the year. But because of all the news that was coming out, more people were just buying into it. I remember hearing reports that Bitcoin was the largest talked about topic for Thanksgiving dinners.
Right.
That
Well,
just
I
goes
talked
to
about it at my
show
Thanksgiving dinner.
that, right?
No,
and
I
it
was
just
all
goes
into
to
it.
show that huh?
I was into it too.
Yeah, I know. I remember we had conversations before about it, and I was telling you about it. I've worked with ICOs. I've really worked in this market because I've been into Bitcoin since 2012. I'm kind of past the Bitcoin hype that most people are, and I'm trying to educate people more on what's actually happening. What are the fundamentals? What are the things people want to understand when you're looking at the larger market as a whole? But to just get back to our point, when you're funding this revolution, you are using these Bitcoins to speak for, you are rejecting the current opinion that no, cannabis should be illegal, and we're going to do it even without technically regulations. We as the banks, as the central authorities, can say no, we don't want to do this, and unfortunately, no cannabis business can do that.
Right.
So if we start utilizing and start advertising and promoting the acceptance of cryptocurrencies as this form of payment, not as an investment like it happened last year, but people are actually using this to pay for goods and services, we're going to find that the cryptocurrency market won't rally so much because it's not that investment opportunity.
Right.
It's
Right.
that funding the revolution.
Right. And with that, I like to let people know, how do they find out a little bit more about what you're doing? How do they get in touch with you, and tell us a little bit more about this event so people can actually hear you speak and, maybe network and mingle with some other crypto people in the cannabis industry. So how do people get in touch with you and find out a little bit more about crypto?
So on Facebook, I run a group, and it's equally named, very basic, Cryptocurrency Basics Group.
Okay.
It was to allow people that just generally search into Facebook, they're looking for the basics on cryptocurrencies, they'll find this group. It's a growing group. I've been expanding a lot. I put out videos daily. I also run a private group as well for those that are really interested, that want to learn more. I host a weekly live stream. But you can find it all at Cryptocurrency Basics Group.
Okay.
And you can look me up on Facebook, Ian
Right.
Tyszka, Tyszka.
Okay, great. And they can do that.
I'm
Now
also
tell us
on-
a little bit about this event on Friday.
So Friday, it's going to be Central Mass High Society's cryptocurrency night. And there's going to be 3 presenters. One runs his own group as well. He's going to have a conversation about the intro to cryptocurrencies, kind of expanding on what I talked about, but more in a relevant sense for people to grasp.
Right.
They're going to have someone that runs a wallet slash add-on for Chrome that helps interface with some of the new even just Bitcoin. I didn't want to get into it too much; it'll confuse a lot of people.
Yeah.
But just all of these, there's a lot of development going on in this space. There are things like smart contracts, and some of these things are really starting to break the mold when it comes to technology and economic transactions between each other and what we're doing.
Okay.
And I'm going to be giving my presentation. I'm funding this revolution, expanding on what we talked about today, but really getting into why should business owners start accepting it? Why should users or end users start requesting services in cryptocurrency? And really giving the opinion of why cryptocurrencies are so important, what the difference is when it's an investment versus actually a currency and what it's designed for.
Okay, very cool. And this is up in Central Mass in Worcester. People can find this on Facebook. It's called High Society Cryptocurrency Night. And obviously, because it's a cannabis-friendly event, it's in Massachusetts. There will be cannabis vendors there. Not cannabis, but there will be CBD and cannabis industry vendors. There will be, I think it's a little more cannabis-friendly than Connecticut, I would have to say. Correct? You can definitely have a good time up there.
I totally agree. Believe me, it's, Massachusetts really pioneered the way, especially here in New England, on being the first state to really legalize, and hoping, fingers crossed, by July they'll start actually having these dispensaries up and running. And maybe I can help some of these dispensaries look at finding some of their solutions.
Finding crypto, they can use them as a means of exchange. All right, Ian, we've got to run on to our next caller. We really appreciate talking to you. That's the Cryptocurrency Basics group on Facebook. And we will see you Friday at the event.
Definitely. I look forward to meeting everybody, and I hope you guys enjoy the presentation. Thank you all for having me.
All right. We'll see you there. Thanks again, Ian.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We're streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook Live. Just go to facebook.com/New Haven Independent, or just go to your Facebook page and look us up. All right, so this is perfect timing this week. We have another caller coming in. Who do we have on the line?
Hey, Joe, how you doing? It's Brian Essenter.
Brian Essenter, how are you, my friend?
Doing all right, buddy. Doing really well.
All right, Brian, a little bit about you. You used to actually work at one of the dispensaries here in the Connecticut cannabis industry. And tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you've got going on these days.
So I'm a pharmacist by trade. I actually worked for Walgreens for about 16 years.
Oh, fun.
And found my way into the dispensary world. As many of us pharmacists find out, we just begin to hate our job day after day. So, I had met some people in the dispensary end of things, and in Connecticut needing a pharmacist to be involved. I kind of put the word out that I was interested, and when something came up, I jumped at it and had an absolutely amazing ride for just about 3 years of helping patients and running the dispensary in Bethel, and really just absolutely loved every bit of it. But I just feel like it's unfortunate because the patients don't really get a chance to talk to people that know a lot about it before they actually spend a lot of money to get into the program. And just want to try to get the word out to them and be a resource to those patients and anybody else that's interested, whether it be, employers or anything, just, and like we've been doing up at the legislative offices, trying to, convince them that this isn't the gateway drug that they want to think it is, or
Yeah, I think they're beyond that. I think they know that now. They're just afraid to vote.
I think that's exactly what it was. It was just fear. It was so unfortunate, and it's sad when they're worried about their political careers when more than 2/3 of the people say they want it. You'd think that would be a vote for their career and not against it, but they're just,
They're politicians. Hey, they'll never learn.
Yeah.
They'll never learn. They're not really for the people. It's a shame. Anyway, we don't want to bash politicians. Let's talk about what we have here in Connecticut right now, our bird in the hand, our medical marijuana program. You were, an integral part of it over there at one of the first dispensaries that opened. Tell us a little bit about how a dispensary system works here in Connecticut, and what do you think can be needed to improve it? Because obviously you left that system to go on your own because you felt like you could fulfill a need that they weren't fulfilling. So let's,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's, you know, there's just not a lot. A lot of people don't even know the industry exists, that this is an option for them in the state of Connecticut still, and that just boggles my mind that, you know, there's so many people that could benefit so much from it that don't even know it exists. And you know, so one of the things that I've been trying to do is get out and talk to doctors and therapists and all these other people and educate them on the program and, you know, educate them as to what conditions are out there that, you know, patients qualify with and how they can, you know, find the right practitioners that would certify them. You know, we always want to make sure that they can go through their own primary care doctor. But, you know, one of the big problems there is their primary doctors and most of these doctors don't really know much of anything about it to begin with. And out of fear, I guess, of lack of knowledge, they tend to steer them away from it. And, you know, so another place I think education can really improve the program in general, if I think, you know, our doctors are a little bit more knowledgeable on the program and who it is that's running it and what these patients are seeing. Because I think what's great about the program is it gives them comfort seeing a pharmacist, just knowing that they're going to see and talk to a pharmacist and pharmacy technicians. The patients that are a little bit more uneasy can come in and feel as though, all right, this is somebody that is a healthcare professional. They really do have my best interest at heart. And, you know, pharmacists tend to be pretty well trusted. So they know we can look at their medications and really try to guide them accordingly.
Yeah, people forget that a lot of these medical marijuana patients are not experienced cannabis users. And they need to be educated themselves.
Yep, and that's exactly the point. Is I, you know, the patients that I see, the reason that I absolutely love this is, you know, you have your people that are your cannabis users that come in and they know what they're doing, and there's not a whole lot of help that they need. But the reason that I really love doing it is, you know, as a pharmacist, you go to school to help people to really be able to impact their lives. And the amount of patients that I would get that would come in because, you know, a friend or a family member or a coworker or somebody just really started trying to drive it home. Hey, this could help you. Hey, this could help you. And they just kind of finally gave in. But, you know, and to see them start to listen when you tell them, hey, you don't have to smoke. Hey, you don't have to get high. Hey, we can really work with, you know, and your situation and help improve different parts slowly and really taper things up very slowly. And, you know, I tell people you don't open their eyes, you open their ears. And once they start listening and they realize all of these things is when they're like, oh, okay, maybe there is an opportunity here. And those are the patients that I think are the biggest benefactors from the program in general. The people that don't really understand the true benefit of it, but are now able to start improving their quality of life and becoming a more active participant in their life. And, you know, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're going to cure everything for them, but, you know, if you can have them much happier about the place that they are in and feeling at least a little bit less pain, it's amazing what that can do for a patient's state of mind and perspective.
You improve the quality of their life. I mean, nobody's saying that cannabis can cure everything because we know it can't. There's no such thing as a miracle cure. However, you're improving the quality of these patients' life. You're giving them a medicine that actually benefits and enriches their body rather than takes away from it, has all these nasty side effects. I mean, I can imagine as a pharmacist, you probably felt a lot more fulfilled dispensing cannabis than you ever did dispensing, you know, antibiotics and antidepressants and opioids at a Walgreens. So, I mean, probably for somebody like you, it's been a really good career change, and maybe other people would be interested in doing that.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, in the pharmacy, your day is spent arguing with doctors and insurance companies about what's covered and what isn't and why. And then you're arguing with patients about why it's taking so long and why it costs so much. And, you know, in the dispensary end of things, it's nothing like that whatsoever. You know, people want the insurances to come and cover everything.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick, and let's talk about the pitfalls of that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have some really great ideas that I'd love to talk to some legislators about that I just came up with. But the bottom line is the way the system is set up right now, everybody that, has filled a prescription in a regular pharmacy understands that it can be just an absolute nightmare to fill the prescription alone. So, that just adds on to your anxiety or your depression or whatever else when you see the cost of it as well.
Right.
But, you're going to have insurance companies that are going to limit what products you can and cannot use,
what they'll
how
cover,
much of them you can and cannot get, when you can and cannot get them.
And the big one,
get ugly.
the price. Once you get them
exactly.
involved, they can control the price. And that's how you see these $1,000 pills and these hepatitis treatments that are $10,000 a month, because the insurance company has to get their money back. So they instruct Big Pharma. We know how it works. And people want, to keep the cannabis industry out of that is probably a good thing. I like the idea of having maybe disability cover it, workman's comp in certain cases. But the current insurance system, the way it's set up, if you bring that into the cannabis industry and medical marijuana, you're going to have big problems.
Absolutely. And that's so the other part that I really see on a daily basis, and what I like about the industry is one of the biggest things that patients say that they like about it, and in all of the polls that they do and everything, is the patients like the aspect of self-control.
Right.
They have the ability to control what they use, when they use it, how they use it, and to whatever level of need they have that day. I mean, nobody's anxiety or pain or depression or whatever your case may be is the exact same every single day.
Right.
It just isn't. It doesn't work that way. So to take a pill that is 10 milligrams every single day and keep it at one specific level, it's theoretically I get it, because you start getting into half-lives and all that kind of stuff, but it's not the most appropriate way to medicate somebody, because you put them on that flat line. They don't have the ups, they don't have the downs, and you don't want the downs, but you know what? It's nice to have the ups too, and you can't appreciate the ups without some of the downs sometimes. So
right.
It's really hard to see that too, and it's the side effects and everything else that come with it. It's unfortunate. And when they can control what they need, how they need it, when they need it, to whatever level of need they have, that's a game changer. Because,
absolutely.
If you're taking oxycodone 30 milligrams every single day, well, you have quite a few days you don't necessarily need that much of it, and you could probably function a heck of a lot better.
And you also, if you continue to take it, you never know if that pain ever went away, because you're constantly masking it. So, I mean, for me, normally when an injury heals, the pain goes away. But you never know that if you're constantly on the oxy or the painkiller, because all you're really doing is masking the symptoms.
And I completely agree. The way I look at it, and I think that taking these pain meds chronically, like they give to these patients, is actually causing more chronic pain than they had to begin with.
Absolutely.
Because the thing is you have your own natural opiates that you produce in your body. I mean, you break a leg and it doesn't hurt right away, because you have all of that adrenaline and everything running through your system. Well, when your body no longer needs to produce that because you're supplementing it constantly, it doesn't know how to produce that when you stop, which is why it gets so difficult to get off and so painful, and nobody can function, and it's just the ugliest thing in the world to watch. It changes the way your brain fires. It doesn't know how to fire those neurons anymore, and it's causing more pain, and they're feeding their own mouths by keeping these people on this medication that much longer. It's feeding the addiction, and
yeah, I agree. And of course, for Big Pharma and for the doctors, it's all a matter of keeping customers rather than having patients. And cannabis actually feeds your endocannabinoid system and your THC receptors, and without all the nasty side effects. I've never gotten constipated from cannabis. I've never, I've never had my breathing slow down, and almost stop from cannabis. I mean, so there's a lot of different ways that cannabis is a much better pain reliever than the opioids, and I think people are starting to realize that, and I think Big Pharma is starting to realize that, and they're getting a little scared.
That's why they're doing everything they can to get in the game as quickly as they can too. But yeah, I mean, that's honestly, this past weekend I went down to the Patients at a Time conference in Jersey City and was able to sort of geek out with some of the most amazing scientists and researchers and everything in the field. And some of the stuff that they had and were talking about was, I mean, it was just next level kind of stuff. And to see what's coming and to see how they're breaking this stuff down and some of this information that so much of it was regarding, you know, I mean, the title of it was Cannabis Relieves Pain, Treats Addiction. So, you know, there was Dr. Sulak, there was Dr. Ethan Russo. I mean, there were some of the most amazing doctors. Dr. Dedi Meiri out of Israel did a couple of talks that he was just unbelievable. I mean, it was so inspiring, the information that they had and the stories that they had and everything, to see what's happening out there. But to see what's coming is really exciting, because they're getting to the point now where they're starting to be able to tell everybody really why. And I think when, you know, you start telling some of these doctors and scientists and everything else, and you can show them the actual mechanism of action, it starts changing their opinions, and now they can understand a little bit better. But, you know, honestly, so the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway that I had was one of the doctors said that, you know, everybody who talks about the side effects and you know, that we have no studies to know what this does or doesn't do, she just mentioned the off-label use of medication. And let's just speak about a very prominent one right now in gabapentin. Gabapentin is not approved for nerve pain. It's not one of its approvals. But, you know, that's what they're using it for now. Well, so 1 in 9 medications, I believe she said, is used for an off-label purpose. Which means there was no testing done. There is no, you know, or there was no proof that it was effective for any of these things. You don't know any other potential side effects for those particular conditions as well. So if you have 1 in 9 prescriptions being used for an off-label medical use, and these doctors are saying that they feel 100% confident in prescribing that for off-label use, why are we not using cannabis? Right.
And I'm going to leave you with that, Brian, real quick, because I just got my 1-minute warning. Tell us real quick how to get in touch with you. And I do need to mention real quick that Connecticut Normal has its monthly meeting this month at Fiddleheads in Hartford at 7 p.m. If anybody would like to go, and that includes you, I'd like to invite you. Now, tell us real quick, how do we get in touch with you?
You can get me on Facebook. It's Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Essenter, E-S-S-E-N-T-E-R. My website is M as in Mary, consultct.com. Also on Twitter and Instagram at MNConsultCT as well. So look forward to hearing from everybody, and I'll talk to you soon, Joe.
All right, Brian, thank you for calling in. I'm sure we'll be talking again. And remember, this Thursday night, the 17th, the Connecticut Normal meeting is having its monthly meeting at Fiddleheads in Hartford at 7 p.m. For those of you who want to get involved in the movement, it's very important to show up and start getting involved. And with that, we're going to leave you for next week. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, we'll have the full crew here. I'm hoping to get a legislator to call in, Josh Elliott, and Marvin Washington will be calling in too. So we're going to have a great show next week. All of you remember now, keep it green and keep up the faith. We might have lost this year, but there's a never-ending battle going on.
It's your business if you into it. If it ain't mine, I ain't into it. So I don't care what you meddling. You can say what you peddling, cause niggas ain't easily influenced. I'm about to take another long drive, cause it helped me get a clear mind. So while you staring at your watch, I'll be looking at the sun. Yeah, I'm moving on real. So wish that I was here now. Smooth sailing on my own boat.